Get on the top, look at. She called her mom and was like, I'm not getting in this car with my father. Come on, baby, the top, look at the top.
It's funny because I think
They
kids
were born
assume
into luxury, raised in lavish mansions, surrounded by dazzling stage lights and thunderous applause. But what lies beyond those grand walls? Not the dream that everyone envies, but tragedies few could ever imagine. As daughters of legends, they were never truly their own. The world saw them as exquisite figures, beautiful, powerful, yet nameless. They were never called by their own names. Instead, they were only known as someone's daughter. Under the weight of scrutinizing eyes, cruel whispers, and relentless expectations, their childhoods became gilded cages. They were not allowed to be weak, not allowed to fail, not allowed to do anything but shine. But does anyone ever wonder if they, too, feel pain, fear, and despair like everyone else? And when some of them dared to break free from their chains, what price did they have to pay? Join us in today's video to uncover the answer. Zoe Kravitz, the daughter of Lenny Kravitz and Lisa Bonet. There's an undeniable truth. Being born as the daughter of a legendary rock star like Lenny Kravitz, you have two choices: either live forever in that colossal shadow or break free and create your own light. Zoe Kravitz chose the latter, and she did it spectacularly. As a child, Zoe wasn't just a girl born with a silver spoon. She was raised in a world of flashing cameras, extravagant parties, and deep philosophical conversations about art among Hollywood legends. But here's what no one realized: little Zoe hated it all. She didn't want to be just Lenny Kravitz's daughter or Lisa Bonet's daughter. She wanted to be Zoe Kravitz, a name of her own, a true icon. Her journey wasn't easy. Growing up with a father admired by the world but absent from her own life, Zoe knew too well the feeling of being left behind. Missed calls, broken promises, she had seen it all. While people assumed she lived a life of luxury, the truth was that she carried emotional wounds that no amount of money could heal. Then Hollywood came knocking. But it didn't welcome her with open arms. It threw her into forgettable roles where Lenny Kravitz's daughter was the headline before her own name. But Zoe wasn't the type to accept fate. She threw herself into acting like a cornered beast, shattering stereotypes and proving herself through powerful performances in Big Little Lies, The Batman, and a series of other high-profile projects. Today, Zoe Kravitz isn't just a talented actress or a fashion icon, she's also a producer and director, proving to the world that she's more than just beauty. She's intelligence, resilience, and an unstoppable force. From a child overshadowed by her parents' legacy, she has risen to become one of the brightest stars in Hollywood. But if you think Zoe's story is dramatic enough, wait until you meet Corinne Fox, the proud daughter of Jamie Foxx, who has left Hollywood stunned with her own spectacular transformation. Corinne Fox, the daughter of Jamie Foxx. Imagine being the daughter of Jamie Foxx, one of Hollywood's rare multi-talents, a man who can do it all: act, sing, host, and make the whole world burst into laughter with just a glance. With a father like that, you wouldn't need to try. You could easily live a life of luxury, sitting back and basking in his glory. But Corinne Fox refused that path. She wasn't a Hollywood princess waiting for opportunities to fall into her lap. She didn't rely on the Fox name to pave the way for her. Instead, Corinne chose to carve her own path into the entertainment industry, even if it was far from easy. From a young age, Corinne knew that people only saw her as Jamie Foxx's daughter. The same old questions followed her everywhere. Did your dad help you land this role, or what can you do without your father's influence? Each question felt like a dagger to her pride. Corinne didn't want to be seen as someone riding on her father's coattails. She wanted to prove that she was a true Fox, on her own terms. She threw herself into education and skill building, graduating from the University of Southern California, USC, and studying acting at the American Film Institute, AFI. She stepped onto fashion runways like an unthroned queen, gracing prestigious catwalks and proving she wasn't just beautiful, she had presence and ambition. But her biggest breakthrough came when she decided to explore production. Corinne wasn't just an actress, she was a creator. As the producer of Beat Shazam, she transformed a simple game show into a cultural phenomenon. And the most impressive part? She did it without her father handing her a golden ticket. However, Corinne isn't someone who coldly rejects help from her famous father. She loves Jamie Foxx unconditionally, and the two share an incredible bond. Jamie has always been her biggest fan, but he also understands that Corinne needs the space to shine in her own light. And now, as Corinne walks the red carpet with critically acclaimed roles, her own production projects, and a thriving modeling career, the world has finally recognized the truth. Corinne Foxx isn't just Jamie Foxx's daughter. She is Corinne, a queen of the new generation. But if you think Corinne is a rare case of a Hollywood heiress breaking free from her father's shadow, brace yourself, because Bria Murphy, the daughter of the legendary Eddie Murphy, is about to take the world by storm in an even more stunning way. Bria Murphy, the daughter of Eddie Murphy. Hollywood has an unspoken rule: if you're the child of a legend, you either live like one or spend your life being called their shadow. And if anyone understands this better than most, it's Bria Murphy, daughter of legendary comedian and actor Eddie Murphy. But Bria didn't take the easy way out. She stepped away from the lavish world her father built to find her own true worth, and that journey was anything but smooth. From a young age, Bria lived a life most could only dream of: extravagant mansions, luxury cars, lavish vacations, and star-studded Hollywood parties. But behind the glamorous Instagram photos, she felt like she was being swallowed whole by her father's fame. Every time she walked into a room, the first question people asked wasn't, "Bria, what do you do?" but rather, "Is Eddie Murphy here?" Bria was done with it. She wanted to be recognized for who she was, not just for the Murphy name. So instead of chasing Hollywood's spotlight like her father, Bria chose art. With her gifted hands and vivid imagination, Bria became a painter. But she didn't create easy, commercial art meant to sell quickly. Her work was abstract, bold, and deeply personal, reflecting her emotions, her struggles with fame, and her inner battles. When Bria held her first art exhibition, people didn't show up to admire the paintings, they came to see Eddie Murphy's daughter. But the moment they stepped into the gallery, they were stunned. They never expected Bria to have real talent, to captivate them with her work without relying on her father's name. Just as Bria began carving out her own identity, Hollywood came knocking again. She realized that, like it or not, entertainment was still in her blood. As much as she didn't want to be labeled Eddie Murphy's daughter, she couldn't deny her own powerful presence on screen. So she ventured into acting and modeling, slowly but surely proving herself on prestigious runways and independent film projects. Today, Bria Murphy is no longer just a name attached to Eddie Murphy. She is an artist, a model, an actress, a strong woman making her own choices. And most importantly, she has forced the world to recognize that she is not a shadow, but a brilliant light shining in her own right. But if you think Bria Murphy's story is the most impressive one in the Murphy family, just wait until you meet Shane Audra Murphy, her younger sister, who's even bolder and more fearless. Shane Audra Murphy, the shadow of her sister and the rebellion no one saw coming. If Bria Murphy was the brightest diamond, then Shane Audra Murphy was the radiant light no one ever bothered to see, until she decided to break every limit in her way. As the daughter of Eddie Murphy and the younger sister of Bria Murphy, Shane spent her youth trapped in the overwhelming shadow of her sister. Bria was celebrated as a goddess of beauty, a fashion icon, Hollywood's muse. And Shane? She was just the cute little sister, a footnote in every conversation. People saw Bria gracing red carpets and dazzling gowns, but Shane? Always in the background, a quiet accessory to someone else's spotlight. But Shane had had enough. At 19, she did something no one in the Murphy family ever saw coming. She abandoned Hollywood, walked away from the limelight, cut ties with the elite world she was born into, and plunged headfirst into the underground world of violence, underground boxing. She dropped out of college, vanished from social media, and suddenly reappeared in New York's darkest boxing clubs. No longer the wide-eyed girl with a sweet smile, she had become a fighter. Brutal punches, bruises, exhaustion from relentless training sessions, every hit was proof that she was no longer anyone's shadow. When Bria found out her sister was fighting to make a living, she broke down in tears. She couldn't believe that Shane had thrown everything away to follow such a reckless path. "You don't have to do this. You're beautiful, you could model, you could have anything." But Shane just smiled, a proud, defiant smile. "You've never understood me, have you? I don't want to be admired for my looks. I want to be remembered for my strength." 3 years later, Hollywood was talking about Shane Audra Murphy again, but this time, not as Bria's little sister. This time, she had become the first professional MMA fighter to emerge from a Hollywood dynasty. The night of her first televised fight, all of America was glued to their screens. Eddie Murphy and Bria sat in front of the TV, holding their breath with every punch she threw. And when Shane knocked out her opponent in the second round, the entire world stood still in shock. Kavia James Wade, Hollywood's boss baby and the secret no one dares to reveal. Hollywood is full of powerful figures, but no one expected one of its most formidable forces to be a toddler. She's not a singer, not an actress, not a model. Yet every raised eyebrow, every expression on her face becomes a trend. Every short remark she makes can send shockwaves through the industry. Kavia James Wade, the daughter of Dwayne Wade and Gabrielle Union, is not just a child. She's a phenomenon. From the moment she was born, Kavia was at the center of attention. The world eagerly awaited the first glimpse of her, expecting an adorable little princess with big, bright eyes and a sweet, innocent smile. But when the first pictures of Kavia surfaced, people were stunned. She wasn't smiling. She wasn't giddy, chatty, or thrilled by the camera like other celebrity babies. Instead, she stared straight into the lens with a piercing, almost chilling gaze, as if she had already seen through the hypocrisy of Hollywood from the crib. The internet exploded. She was dubbed Shady Baby, the child with the most legendary side-eye in the world. Her photos, filled with expressions of "I don't care" energy, instantly became viral memes. A-listers like Rihanna, Kevin Hart, and even Oprah shared her images with humorous captions. But behind that signature deadpan stare lies a story Hollywood never dares to tell. Kavia isn't different from other kids just because she was born into wealth and fame. She is the result of a painful battle, a battle her mother, Gabrielle Union, fought at a devastating cost. Gabrielle Union endured 9 miscarriages. She tried everything to have a child, only to have hope shattered time and time again. When her body could no longer endure the struggle, she and Dwayne Wade turned to surrogacy. But Hollywood, like a bloodthirsty beast, never misses a chance to attack. "She's not the real mother," the critics sneered. "Kavia was just born to save their marriage," the tabloids wrote. Dwayne Wade probably wanted another wife, but Gabrielle kept him by having a child, the gossip spread. Kavia never heard those words, but somehow, she seemed to feel them. Unlike other babies, she didn't cry often. She simply observed. She silently studied the people around her, those who smiled sweetly for cameras but whispered behind closed doors, those who faked kindness while publishing hit pieces about her parents. And she understood, without being told, that the world wasn't as beautiful as people claimed. She didn't need to be taught how to ignore the fake. She instinctively knew who she was and how strong she needed to be to survive in a world full of people waiting for her to fail. Today, Kavia is still just a child. But she already has millions of followers on social media, has become a muse for countless children's fashion brands, and is courted by the biggest corporations in the world. And the best part? She doesn't care. She doesn't smile to please anyone. She doesn't try to be adorable to fit Hollywood's expectations. She simply exists as herself, and that's what makes the world unable to look away. In a rare interview, when asked why her daughter always looked so unbothered, Gabrielle Union laughed and said, "Kavia is just being Kavia. She doesn't need Hollywood's approval, Hollywood needs to learn how to deal with her." And the scariest part? This is just the beginning. Kavia James Wade will grow up. She will step into Hollywood with a strength and intelligence beyond what anyone can imagine. And when that day comes, the whole world better be ready. But if you think Kavia is the only child shaking up Hollywood, then you haven't heard about Zahara Jolie Pitt, the African princess who dared to reject the empire Angelina Jolie built for her. Zahara Jolie Pitt, Angelina Jolie's African princess. Everyone assumes that being Angelina Jolie's daughter is a dream. But for Zahara Jolie Pitt, it was a gilded cage she had to break free from. From an orphan in Ethiopia to the daughter of Hollywood's most powerful family, Zahara's journey is one that few could ever comprehend. But behind the picture-perfect images of her beside her adoptive mother, Angelina Jolie, lies a truth that no one dares to speak. In 2005, Angelina Jolie, then at the peak of her career and one of the most powerful women on the planet, adopted Zahara from an Ethiopian orphanage. The heartwarming tale of a benevolent mother saving an unfortunate child captivated the world. Photos of Zahara with Angelina Jolie and Brad Pitt flooded the media. She became a symbol of humanitarianism, of love without borders. But what was the reality? As a baby, she was thrust into a world she couldn't understand, becoming part of a dynasty she never chose. From the very beginning, Zahara was different from her siblings. She was the only black child in a family of white megastars. And while Angelina Jolie proudly celebrated the diversity within her household, Hollywood did not. To the media, Zahara was a fashion accessory. While the other Jolie Pitt children were praised for their exotic beauty, Zahara was reduced to the African girl. When Maddox, Angelina's son from Cambodia, was introduced as a talented heir, Zahara was merely referred to as Angelina's humanitarian project. She wasn't seen as an individual. She was a symbol. A PR victory. But there was one thing Hollywood didn't understand: Zahara Jolie Pitt wasn't born to be anyone's symbol. Growing up in her mother's spotlight, Zahara slowly realized that the world saw her differently. She wasn't considered a true Jolie Pitt, she was the rescued child. And she hated it. As a teenager, she began pushing back against the expectations Hollywood had placed upon her. She rejected the glamorous dresses her mother picked out, instead choosing outfits that reflected her African heritage. She spoke out about racial issues, knowing full well that it could invite criticism toward her family. She sought her roots. She secretly contacted adoption agencies in Ethiopia. She wrote letters to people who might have known her biological parents. But the truth was more painful than she imagined. Her birth mother had passed away shortly after giving birth, and no one knew who her father was. Zahara felt lost. But then, Angelina placed a hand on her daughter's shoulder, looked into her eyes, and said, "You don't need a name to know who you are. You are Zahara Jolie Pitt, and that is all you need to know." And from that day forward, Zahara stopped searching for her identity. Because she had found it in the hearts of those who truly loved her. Yara Shahidi, when a last name makes the world turn its head. Has anyone ever wondered what would happen if a girl carried the bloodline of a hip-hop legend but chose the path of intellect instead? Meet Yara Shahidi. Yara Shahidi is more than just a name, she's a symbol. The niece of legendary rapper Nas, she was born into a family where artistry flows through every vein. But instead of following hip-hop, acting, or fashion, she chose a path no one expected: academia, politics, and intellectualism. Hollywood once assumed Yara would soon become a fashion icon or a rising actress. But the moment she sat down for an interview with Michelle Obama to discuss education, the world realized she wasn't just another pretty face. She was a brilliant mind. But not everyone supported her choices. When Yara decided to attend Harvard University, Hollywood exploded with criticism. The backlash came like a tidal wave, as if she had committed some kind of betrayal. But Yara wasn't one to be shaken. She continued to appear on television, speaking out about black women's rights, the education system, and the necessity for black voices in society. Once, a reporter asked her, "Aren't you afraid that if you leave Hollywood, the world will forget you?" Yara simply smiled, her gaze sharp. "I don't need Hollywood to remember me. I need the world to remember what I do." And they did. Yara Shahidi is not just an actress. She is a symbol of a generation. Marsai Martin, the plot twist no one saw coming. At just 14 years old, Marsai Martin taught Hollywood a lesson it will never forget: never underestimate a young black girl. Marsai Martin was never meant to stand in the background. But for years, Hollywood had deliberately ignored one simple truth: they never truly valued young black actresses. When Marsai began her career with Blackish, she was seen as just another cute child star and nothing more. Producers assumed that a 14-year-old couldn't do much beyond reading her lines. They were wrong. One day, Marsai walked into a major studio's office, placed a script on the table, and declared, "I want to produce this film. I will be the lead. And you're going to invest in it." Hollywood laughed. A 14-year-old producing a movie? That had never happened before. But Marsai didn't care. She secured funding, worked tirelessly, and fought to maintain creative control over her project. And when Little premiered, the world was left speechless. Marsai Martin had become the youngest producer in Hollywood history. Her film was a massive success. And every single person who once doubted her was forced into silence. That 14-year-old girl proved one thing: you don't have to wait for Hollywood to give you an opportunity. You create it yourself. Regina Carter, the hip-hop princess, and her fight for identity. When you're Lil Wayne's daughter, you don't have to do anything to be famous. But if you want to build your own name, that's a whole different battle. Regina Carter was born into a world where everyone already knew who she was: the daughter of Lil Wayne, one of the greatest rappers of all time. But that title wasn't a gift. It was a cage. From a young age, Regina was surrounded by scrutiny. Every move she made, from her fashion choices to her relationships, was picked apart by the public. If she attended a party, the media dismissed her as just another rich kid enjoying the perks of fame. If she tried to release her own music, they sneered, "She's only here because of her dad." There were moments when she wanted to give up. But then, one day, she stood on stage, looking out at the hundreds of fans cheering her name, and realized they didn't care whose daughter she was. They cared about her music. Regina kept pushing forward, writing, creating, and proving that she was more than just Lil Wayne's kid. She refused to live in his shadow and instead carved out her own legacy. Once, a reporter asked Lil Wayne, "Do you think Regina will ever step out from under your shadow?" Lil Wayne simply smiled, lit his cigar, and said, "My daughter doesn't need to step out of anyone's shadow. She shines in her own way." And he was right. Regina Carter isn't just Lil Wayne's daughter. She is a star in her own right. Kyla Wayans, when a Wayans decided not to be funny anymore. The world expected Kyla Wayans to follow in her father's footsteps and become a comedian. What they didn't expect was that she had a completely different plan, a plan that would leave them speechless. As the daughter of Damon Wayans, one of Hollywood's greatest comedians, Kyla grew up surrounded by laughter. But the irony? She hated comedy. As a child, Kyla watched her father stand on stage, making thousands of people laugh. But when he came home, he was just a tired man, drained from constantly performing happiness for the world. That was when she realized comedy wasn't just an art. It was a mask. At 18, Kyla auditioned for a dramatic TV series. The moment the director saw the name Wayans on her resume, he smirked. "We're looking for a dramatic actress, not a comedian." She clenched her fists. They didn't believe a Wayans could do anything beyond making people laugh. That was the moment Kyla decided to prove them wrong. She trained in acting, rejecting every comedic role Hollywood tried to hand her. She pursued tragedies, complex characters, and stories without happy endings. One day, Damon Wayans sat down to watch his daughter on screen. She wasn't smiling. She wasn't cracking jokes. She was crying. And for the first time, the world saw that a Wayans could do more than just bring laughter. When the film ended, Damon simply said, "You broke the family's rules." And I couldn't be prouder. Kyla didn't have to be a comedian. She became a true actress. Nala Wayans, when a legend's daughter disappeared from Hollywood. Hollywood once expected Nala Wayans to be the next big star. But then, she vanished. And no one understood why. As the daughter of Keenan Ivory Wayans, the man who built a comedy empire, Nala was born with every advantage most people could only dream of. But what no one knew was that she never wanted to be part of Hollywood in the first place. From an early age, Nala felt suffocated by the entertainment industry. The lavish parties, the endless photo shoots, the auditions where every tiny flaw was scrutinized, she hated all of it. At 21, just when her family was expecting her to sign a major film deal, Nala suddenly disappeared. No social media. No scandals. No explanations. She wasn't missing. She had escaped. Nala left the United States and traveled to Africa, the homeland of her ancestors. There, she lived a completely different life, far from the flashing lights of Hollywood. She worked with charities, helped underprivileged children, and built schools in remote villages. While Hollywood kept asking, "Where is Nala Wayans?" she was standing in a field in Kenya, laughing among children who had no idea who she was. Years later, a reporter finally tracked her down and asked if she ever planned to return to Hollywood. She simply smiled and said, "I never belonged to Hollywood. I belong here." And just like that, the daughter of a legend chose a different path, one no one ever saw coming. Chance Combs, when Diddy's daughter chose to fight for herself, being born into luxury doesn't mean you won't have to fight. Just ask Chance Combs, the girl who had to earn everything with her own hands. As the daughter of Sean Diddy Combs, Chance had it all: money, fame, power. But she also had something few people knew about: a rebellious heart. Growing up in extravagance, Chance always felt an underlying loneliness. People saw her and only recognized the Combs name. No one truly cared about who she was beneath it. At 16, she made a decision that shocked her entire family. She rejected all of her father's wealth. She moved out of the mansion, lived in a small apartment, took up part-time jobs, and began her journey to independence without a single dollar from Diddy. Criticism followed her everywhere. Friends mocked her. "Why would you give up a life of luxury? What are you trying to prove? Do you really think you can make it without the Combs name?" Chance never answered. Instead, she buried herself in work, diving into art projects, modeling, and writing music, all without asking her father for help. One day, Diddy showed up at her tiny apartment, standing at the door in silence. "You don't have to prove anything to me," he said. Chance looked him in the eyes. "I'm not proving anything to you. I'm proving it to myself." And from that day on, she was no longer just Diddy's daughter. She was Chance Combs, a warrior in her own right. Lori Harvey, when beauty becomes the most dangerous weapon. There are plenty of beautiful women in high society, but none wield their beauty as a deadly weapon quite like Lori Harvey. The daughter of television legend Steve Harvey, Lori isn't just a model, she's a master strategist in the game of power. From a young age, Lori understood one thing: in this world, beauty isn't just a gift, it's a weapon. She didn't rush into Hollywood like others. She chose her own path. Lori crafted an image of perfection, selected her relationships with precision, and maintained an air of mystery and allure. And when she arrived at the Met Gala, the world didn't just see another pretty face. They saw something more. She's not just beautiful. She's brilliant. The media dubbed her the most dangerous woman in Hollywood. But Lori simply smiled. Because she knew she was playing a game that only she could win. Aoki Lee Simmons, when intelligence shatters every stereotype about beauty. As the daughter of supermodel Kimora Lee Simmons, the world expected Aoki to follow in her mother's footsteps. But she had a different plan, becoming a Harvard genius. Born into luxury and raised in the glamorous world of high fashion, Aoki Lee Simmons was expected to become the next beauty icon, a Vogue cover star, a runway sensation. But what people didn't know was that Aoki wasn't just beautiful, she was scary smart. From a young age, she was obsessed with books, numbers, and philosophical debates rather than designer shoes. While her mother brought her to fashion shows, she would quietly sit backstage reading Aristotle. At 16, she shocked the world when she received an acceptance letter from Harvard. But instead of praise, she was met with skepticism. Did she only get in because she's Kimora Lee's daughter? There's no way she's actually that smart. She's too pretty to be a genius. The kind of comments that could break anyone. But Aoki? She simply smiled, walked onto Harvard's campus, and proved them all wrong. Among the brightest students, she held her own. She excelled academically, became a powerful voice for black women in academia, and boldly declared, "Why can't a woman be both beautiful and intelligent?" Who made that rule? On her graduation day, Kimora Lee Simmons sat in the audience, tears streaming down her face, not because her daughter was a supermodel, but because she was a true intellectual force. From that moment on, the world no longer saw Aoki Lee Simmons as just another rich kid. She became a symbol of intelligence, strength, and the power to break every stereotype. Blue Ivy Carter, when being Beyoncé's daughter means fighting for your own name. If you think being Beyoncé's daughter is a privilege, try walking in Blue Ivy Carter's shoes. From the moment she was born, Blue Ivy Carter was already a legend. As the daughter of Beyoncé and Jay-Z, she entered the world with everything at her feet. But what no one ever talks about is this: being Beyoncé's child isn't easy. From an early age, the media dissected every little detail about her. They didn't see her as a child, they saw her as a spectacle. Will she follow in Beyoncé's footsteps? Is she truly talented, or just a product of fame? Can she ever escape her mother's enormous shadow? Blue Ivy realized she had no choice but to fight for her place in the world. At just 8 years old, she became the youngest Grammy winner in history for her vocals on Brown Skin Girl. But instead of celebration, she faced relentless criticism. She only won because she's Beyoncé's daughter. Without her parents, she would be nothing. For the first time, Blue Ivy cried at the weight of those words. But Beyoncé held her close, looked into her eyes, and said, "Never let anyone tell you that you don't deserve your success. You are not just my daughter. You are your own person." From that day forward, Blue Ivy stopped trying to be Beyoncé's clone. She decided to be herself. She studied music production, experimented with her own style, and even refused to sing certain songs by her mother, saying, "That's not Blue Ivy." Now stepping into adulthood, Blue Ivy Carter is no longer just Beyoncé's princess. She is an artist, a young entrepreneur, and a force crafting her own story. And for the first time, the world has stopped calling her Beyoncé's daughter. Now, they call her Blue Ivy Carter. They are not just someone's daughter. They are warriors, icons, and individuals who have rewritten their own destinies. They dared to step out of the shadows of legends, to face skepticism head-on, and to prove that while fame can be inherited, talent and resilience must be earned. Whether on screen, in the ring, or in entirely new arenas, they have made their mark, and will continue to do so. And if there's one thing that's certain, it's this: the world will never forget their names. All the information in this video has been gathered from reputable sources and is intended for informational purposes only. We encourage viewers to explore multiple sources to gain a well-rounded and accurate perspective. Don't forget to hit the like button, share your thoughts in the comments, and follow our channel to stay updated on future videos. Together, let's discover fascinating insights into global culture. Subscribe now to receive our latest videos as soon as they're released.